Hello friends, in today's video, we'll be exploring the top 10 poorest countries in the world. Despite being home to rich cultures and histories, these nations face significant economic challenges, often characterized by low GDP per capita, high levels of poverty, and limited access to basic resources, such as healthcare and education. By shedding light on these countries, we hope to raise awareness about the ongoing struggles faced by millions of people worldwide and highlight the urgent need for global cooperation and support to alleviate poverty and improve the quality of life for all. Let's dive deeper to find out about those top 10 poorest countries in the world in 2024. Number 10. Madagascar. Since becoming independent from France in 1960, Madagascar has experienced bouts of political instability, violent coups, and disputed elections. Elected in 2019, President Andry Rajoelina came to power promising to tackle corruption, reduce poverty, and develop the economy. Mostly, they turned out to be just that, promises. Madagascar still holds one of the highest poverty rates in the world at about 75%. Growth is sluggish and inflation stands at about 10%. Number 9. Chad. Chad has Africa's 10th largest oil reserves. Yet poverty remains widespread, making it the 9th poorest country in the world. Most of the windfall from the nation's 2003 oil find was spent by the country's autocratic ruler, Idriss Déby, on fighting rebels and cracking down. Number 8. Liberia. Africa's oldest republic has ranked amongst the poorest countries in the world for many years. Expectations were high when the former football star George Weah became president in 2018. His years in office were instead marred by high inflation, unemployment, and negative economic growth. Until in 2023, he was defeated by opposition leader and former Vice President Joseph Boakai. In a new round of elections, Boakai might have it easier than Weah after contracting in 2020. And 2021, growth rate started in 2022, and it is projected to reach about 4% in 2024. Number 7. Malawi. One of Africa's smallest nations, Malawi's economy, largely dependent upon rain-fed crops, remains vulnerable to weather-related shocks. Food insecurity in rural parts is extremely high. Number 6. Mozambique. Rich in resources and strategically located, this former Portuguese colony has often posted average GDP growth rates of more than 7% in the past decade, yet it remains mired among the 10 poorest countries in the world, with severe climate conditions and political instability being some of the main culprits. To make things worse, since 2017, attacks carried out by Islamic insurgent groups have plagued the gas-rich northern part of the country. Still, according to the IMF, the economy remains in high gear. It grew by 7% in 2023, and it is projected to continue at about 5% this year and the next. Number 5. Niger. With 80% of its landlocked territory covered by the Sahara Desert, and a rapidly growing population dependent upon small-scale agriculture, Niger is under threat from desertification. Food insecurity is high, as are disease and mortality rates. Recurrent clashes of the army with the Islamic State ISIS affiliate Boko Haram have displaced thousands. In 2021, Niger inaugurated a new president teacher and former Interior Minister Mohamed Bazoum its first democratic transfer of power. With the economy expanding by 12% in 2022, things appeared to be looking up, yet in the summer of 2023, Bazoum was ousted and imprisoned by members of his presidential guard. The military junta has remained in power ever since. Number 4. Democratic Republic of the Congo DRC. Since gaining independence from Belgium in 1960, the DRC has suffered decades of rapacious dictatorship, political instability, and constant violence, making it irregular in our rankings. Of the world's poorest countries, about 65% of the country's roughly 100 million population gets by on less than $2.15 a day. Yet the World Bank says the DRC has the resources and potential to become one of the richest countries in Africa and a growth driver for the entire continent. Number 3. Central African Republic. Rich in gold, oil, uranium, and diamonds, the Central African Republic is a very wealthy country inhabited by very poor people and has been among the poorest countries in the world for the better part of a decade. For the first time since its independence from France in 1960, in 2016, the Central African Republic has democratically elected a president, former mathematics professor and Prime Minister Faustin Archange Touadéra, who campaigned as a peacemaker who could bridge the divide between the Muslim minority and the Christian majority. Number 2. Burundi. Tiny landlocked Burundi lacks natural resources and has been scarred by a 12-year civil war, contributing to its ranking of second poorest country in the world, with about 80% of Burundi's roughly 13 million citizens relying on subsistence agriculture. Food insecurity is almost twice as high as the average for sub-Saharan African countries. Number 1. South Sudan. The very poorest of the world's poorest countries. South Sudan has been racked by violence since its creation in 2011, rich in oil reserves. The landlocked state of roughly 11 million represents a textbook example of the resource curse, whereby abundance fosters political and social divisions, inequality, corruption, and warfare. The majority of the population is employed in traditional agriculture, although violence and extreme climate events often prevent farmers from planting or harvesting crops.